What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Soccer Wise. A beautiful day for Soccer Wise. We have a huge show coming up for you. Of course, myself, David Goss, Tommy Scoops. If you are watching on YouTube, or if you checked the title of the podcast before you got there, we've got the legend in the house himself. We said we would list the MLS rivalries, and as the word list went through my head, Andrew Wiebe's face came up, and I had to bring in the GOAT.
It feels like I'm in my 2016 Mazda CX-5 taking the boys to daycare right now, because this is my Soccer-Wise experience. That's when I mainline the boys and get my MLS talk. So, yeah, look, the sun is shining proverbially on this
in the basement.
on this face. Yeah, we do have some windows there, which, by the way, my boys broke 2 photos out of with a soccer ball.
Let's go.
Ask yourself how that's physically possible. No, we're here. We're happy about it, and I've got a not the most fleshed out list, but you know me, man. It's been a while. Once I hit the ground running, it's just going to be, feet hit the pavement, we're off.
I think for me,
are there 30? Are there 30 rivalries?
No.
Are you sure?
No, false.
Are we going to find out?
I could invent them. I could do that.
Well, I think we, in our experience, know that you have invented many rivalries in the past.
Yeah.
Just mainly built around expansion.
I'm the IP creator. All right, like you just bring it to me, throw a trademark on it, and we're off and running, man. It's the world accepts it as a true brand.
I do want to say before we get into this, because I would love to talk about kids and fatherhood a little more before we move on.
Can I just say we have an early rivalry here, just because I mostly am interacting with Dave in the group chat. The rivalry between the gray hairs and the other hairs in your beard it's really ramped up.
I got a message from a friend the other day, and it's like the double screen of Tom on top and me on bottom, and the message was, "You are both every haircut and facial style in Brooklyn at the same time." And I was like,
"No, great point. Great point. If you just transpose your heads on top of each other, bam, there we go."
We're basically Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie, just like the Brooklyn all mixed into one. But what I was gonna say was, you sent us a video yesterday, and Wyatt's ability to get in the paint and finish at the rim, that's like something to be stoked about.
Oh, there's some Brunson-esque. Now, we're skipping the dribbles. And for those of you that didn't get the video, this is my son's playing Fisher-Price basketball while watching the NBA. We're watching the Knicks and the Celtics. And I got to tell you, Cameron's a big Celtics guy, so I don't know how that happened.
Isn't he a Miami fan too?
We're trying to break him of it. I think that's early days front runner.
This is a child who doesn't have enough grounding. This is what happens when you've got Mr. Send me a jersey. Please send me a jersey.
This is why we're going home.
There's no soul.
We got to get him in the cocoon. We got to get him, sucked into some bad seasons. Lived out Royals life. Have the back end of the Chiefs. Maybe it goes down a little bit for him. KU basketball's dipping. So hardship has not been a crucial factor of his sports upbringing, and we've got to change that.
Kids these days.
Game's gone, mate.
Mm-hmm. But did you see 3-pointer from Cameron in true Celtics fashion? It was like Game 5. He was just dunking it. Derek White.
Just keep the.
Whoa.
There's 97 different things said. 3-pointer, dunking it.
Look, it's not. I'm not a basketball commentator.
This is a 2-point.
I'm just trying to fit in here, okay?
Yeah. We've gotten some messages, Tom, by the way. People do appreciate our Bing Bong style intros that have been occurring.
Oh.
I don't know if they say that in the context of knowing that the Knicks had lost and we were coming back today. But I'm not going to let you spin me. I'm not going to be affected by this.
You guys
Pure confidence all the time, especially when our team vomits on themselves.
In fatherhood, you clean it up, okay? So, look, you guys just get the towel out, the one that you don't use to actually, after showers. Wipe up the vomit.
That's good. Careful.
And throw it in hot water in the washing machine and move on, all right?
Can I just say,
there's a new day.
So like Wiebe said, for the people who haven't seen the video that Wiebe sent only to 5 people, his kids playing basketball, it's adorable. IR Wiebe cannot not be a referee. All I heard in the clip was, I think that was a foul. No shots, though. Take it out on top. It's just like you can't turn it off, man.
Well, if you listen, this is part of raising 4- and 7-year-old boys. A lot of fouls. Some, look, physical play. We're talking early '90s Knicks, mentality here.
Love that.
And so we're got to sort of, we're playing right next to a stone fireplace. We've got to set some limits. Otherwise, we've got some potential
rub some dirt on it and get back in there.
Missing teeth issues.
Show them the video of Josh Hart yesterday where he's profusely bleeding and saying, "Can I shoot my free throws with a towel on my face?" And Jaylen Brown is laying on the ground because he got bumped by Jalen Brunson. Just be like, who do you want to be in life? This or that? You tell me, it's your choice.
Tom is ready to roll. The comment in the chat is, Wiebe coming on a show called Soccer Wise to be questioned about his basketball knowledge is a pretty good setup.
Yes, it's perfect. By the way, I saw a video of Jaylen Brown today. He was working in the gym on his grip.
I bet he was. A lot of squeezes in there. My buddy, the one I've been telling everyone about who got married, Celtics fan, he's on his honeymoon now. So he hasn't been watching the games. I get a text right after every time. I texted him after game 4. I said, I want my thank you gift, my thank you note to say thank you for the win in game 3. I don't want you to even mention a gift that I actually gave. Yesterday, he said, didn't see the game. Brunson must have been foul baiting once again. I said, you couldn't see the game. It was rated R because of Jaylen Brown's movements and actions, and it's probably it's probably restricted from international viewing.
Depending on the country. I don't think they might not allow that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about MLS for a second. We're going to do our takeout containers from Wednesday night. They are obviously not as cold and in the fridge, so maybe some of them you could eat without reheating them. Some of them you might want to reheat. And then we're going to dig into our rivalries and our lists so that we can get Wiebe out of here when he's ready to go back into his everyday life. Let's start with our thoughts, our comments from yesterday. I would assume someone has something to say about the LA Galaxy, although we've done this about 500 times. You're new here. Is there anything you'd like to add?
We're still packing up a little bit here, but we've still got the candles up. Ooh. They're all out. They're melted. Yeah, it's all it's a real disarray. I texted the group chat probably, 60th minute, something like that. As soon as Philly came back and scored the 2 goals to even the game, my mind, it was just absolutely unquestionable that the Galaxy were going to lose that match. The way that they are losing, finding ways to lose, contriving ways to lose, setting historic marks in losing is unbelievable. The last 3 games, lost without allowing a shot. Had a rematch with a mediocre Red Bulls team. I feel good saying that. From MLS Cup, which is the last game they won, got a touchdown on their head, and then lose at the last second to Philadelphia. And they scored 2 goals. That's cool. They took 3 shots. And had 43% possession against noted ball wanters Philadelphia Union. This is, I was talking to Greg Vanney coming off the field at halftime of that Kansas City match. He just kind of looked at me. He was like, yeah, we're finding ways to put ourselves in this position, and it could not be more true. Through 13 games, they don't have a single win. Through 13 games, they have 3 points. Through 13 games, they have the worst 13-game start in MLS history. They are averaging, 0.2 something points per game. If you extrapolate it out to 34 games, and look, I believe they will win a game. So this will be, you throw it in the trash at some point. This is just for shock value.
Wow, with the
Tom Bogert, this is for shock value. They're on pace for 7.84 points.
It's unreal.
Are you kidding me? We're at the point now where you have to be realistic about the fact that it's very possible that they join the bottom 5 in MLS history on total points.
Yeah.
It's unthinkable. Even without Ricky Puig, it's unthinkable. But the final goal it's a microcosm of their whole season. They have a throw-in. They're mad about where the throw-in is taken, so they're complaining about that. And then Maya Yoshida gets bumped a little bit in the back, but he throws himself down. He's looking for the foul. It goes out for a corner kick. He's complaining at the corner. And as he's complaining at the corner, he has to run back into the box. A corner kick that they then defend, but Tucker Lepley can't clear. And then they can't defend the second phase. And then they can't defend the cross. And then they don't defend Ty freaking Baribo on the back post. He's if there's everybody look around. Find Ty. Gather around that guy. If anyone, nobody's by him. They get scored on. They fall to their knees in disbelief. And it's just man, it's this on repeat. It's just like a record scratch of this over and over and over and over. And now you have El Trafico and Denny Bouanga's looking
It's an obvious LA Galaxy win. This is the most obvious LA Galaxy win of all time.
With their DPs are hurt. We didn't include that in the Sporting Kansas City recap. I didn't think it would get this bad, but now I'm wondering how bad it can get, to be honest with you.
It is an experience. It is wild to think that this team that struggles so much goes up 2-0, and that ends up being the worst case scenario for them. Like, I think coming out of this is worse than the 7-0. Of like, because the whole like, oh, we keep putting ourselves behind the 8 ball. They didn't. Now you get a game where like it broke your way. You're like Cuevas is hitting a banger early on at Philadelphia. Like, here's the whole blueprint.
Marco Royce has 2 assists. You're like, okay, well, this could
looks
work,
like a live human being. Like, lock it in, lock it down. And that's not the case at all. Tom, you want to add to this? Or you got a different one?
I feel like I've done enough on.
I think that's fair.
On the Galaxy. So for me, my takeouts, I'm gonna center them around quotes. And my favorite quote of this weekend was Bruce Arena saving Lionel Messi from a red card, saying, "I really just wanted to make sure he didn't get a red card." I don't have the best Bruce, but I've heard so many of my sources have a Bruce that I just want to join the party. It makes me happy because he's touched so many lives here. But anyway, Lionel Messi is losing his mind, might be too strong, but he's refusing to give up the argument with the referee. Already gets a yellow card in debating with him after the game. He's in the middle of handshakes. I think my favorite part of the video that I put on Twitter was that he's just got his hand out, just staring at the refs, talking to the refs, and then it's like Mark Anthony Kaye comes over, and then he just leaves his hand out for the next Quakes player.
Open dap,
assistant, like he's
I could use that. I could use that personally, like
locked in on arguing with the referee, and just anybody who wants their moment with Messi, still giving it to him. That's legendary. But so he keeps going back and forth, and he goes back again.
Their moment with Messi. I love that as a way to call it.
And then Bruce Arena, just like, you know what, referee, player, you guys, we shouldn't be arguing. You know what I mean? Bruce Arena, who's screaming at a ref, do the everything, saves him from a red card, because I think that's where that was going to end. And I wonder what if the referees were like, I don't want to give a red card. And like, they shouldn't. You have to be really awful to get 2 yellows yelling at the referee after the game. So I'm sure that they're trying their best to just diffuse, let it go, let him leave. But it's Bruce Arena. And then the video after the game of Bruce Arena still walking with Messi in the tunnel that is exposed at San Jose. Somebody threw a towel towards them, and Bruce just one hand catches the towel, keeps it moving. Just legendary. Just what a wonderful performance after a crazy 3-3 game in which it was 1-1 after 2 minutes.
The stink of disrespect in this podcast, locker room right now is just incredible. Say his name, Joe Dickerson.
I wasn't totally sure.
Soccer-wise guest, friend, however you want to fill in the blank on that. Joe Dickerson is who Messi's yelling at. Joe Dickerson is the one telling him,
done, Joe
walk
Dickerson.
Away, get out of here. So out of respect for Joe, I would like to make sure that we don't just call him the referee.
Value stack added by Andrew Wiebe.
Huge value stack.
Wiebe's coming out of a deep IR record.
I am. I am. That's true.
Yeah. Wiebe's got every name on a list. Wiebe's the only person that should be allowed to vote for the referee and assistant referee of the year.
I wish I could leave it blank sometimes.
Yeah,
they don't let
crazy.
you.
But also, we take it very seriously. We appreciate our votes, and also congratulations to everyone who's winners. Fully deserved.
I do my homework.
I've considered this for many hours.
On the back of the work they put in. I will throw in for one of mine, or maybe my only one, because let's get into some rivalry talk. Bo LaRue being the best player in MLS history, I think is kind of exciting and fun. Someone challenged me yesterday. They're like, name a better American center mid right now in MLS. It's
Sebastian
possible.
Yeah, it's Berhalter.
Sebastian Berhalter.
Yeah,
that's fair. I think you can always say Nagby, which is an easy one to say. I think you can say Georgi Mihailovic if you want to. But, it's not obscene. And that alone is kind of fun and exciting that he's just been a really good player for their team.
You know what's really fun for me is that I've stopped thinking of Bo LaRue in a 2-name scenario, because when I listen to you guys, you mash it together. Yeah. So it sounds like a Brazilian. It's like Bo LaRue. That's how I think of him now. I'm like Bo LaRue. It's like a 1-name player.
It's not a name I'm super familiar with.
I'm ready to learn, buddy.
I've never met a Bo before. But I think it is common in some parts of.
Yeah,
I'm looking at Wiebe now.
You haven't spent enough time in the South.
Is it always spelt like that?
Yeah, I mean,
from
recent vintage, I would say I've seen a good number of those.
Okay.
So Then you combine it with LaRue. I mean, I give props to his parents. That's a really good naming job by them. I think it's got good flow.
This is a great take. I totally agree.
So I'm here for Bo LaRue, but I just think of it as a little bit like Lucharu, but like Bo-laroo.
Wow. Wiebe brings it back around.
Always.
The legend back in the building. Last one to close out on as we move into our rivalry talk, which will connect both, is Wilfred Nance saying we rotated because Hell is Real is a big game and it's insane that we have a midweek game before, is another really good takeaway, which I appreciated coming out of this midweek of action. Yes, Tom?
I completely agree, but I have one more quote that I want to get to before we get to the rivalries. So speaking of a rivalry, Kansas City, St. Louis, Dejan Loving after the game saying, "Can we play them every week? That would maybe be good for me and good for the team." I love Dejan Loving. I just need that quote to be everywhere.
It's the most perfect, like, Serbian, direct, blunt, like, very true for him and what he's talking about, but very painful for St. Louis City and all their fans. Like, how painful is that? You get done playing a rivalry match that you blew a lead in, and the opponent looks across the aisle and is like, publicly, like, we'd like to play them as much as possible. Like, can you make that
the team that fired their manager after going 13 games without a win between last season and this season?
These guys are the ones we want. Like, more of them, more of that. But if we're just gonna throw in rivalry quotes here, Jensen Miller is fast becoming one of my favorite players in the league because I have a soft spot for the super draft pick.
I'm Jansen Miller Hive as well. I like this.
All right, I will come in. If you are the queen of the hive, because we're talking bees, we've got to be. Can't be the king of the hive. It's queen. I will be a loyal worker for you. I will gather the honey. Here is the honey for you, Doyle. Jansen Miller, after this game, he had 200 people at this match, and he has officially sworn off his St. Louisdom. Quote: nice. They, St. Louis, had the 7th pick. I was picked 8th, and the fans say I'm not loyal? ? That is a bar. That is so, that is a.
Did he?
So good.
Did he say a barbecue thing?
I think he did.
I think I saw
slandered.
pregame.
Yeah.
He was like, Kansas City has the best barbecue. Is St. Louis in a debate about that?
No, they're not.
Yeah,
no,
right.
They're not.
That's not really their thing.
No.
Wiebe just called Goss Doyle and just not letting that go.
Did I?
Did you not hear that?
No, I didn't.
I don't think I said that. Yeah, I denied that.
All right. On that note, we could still move on to our next piece. Let's do our rivalry ranking. So I threw in the Discord, and anyone who doesn't subscribe to our Patreon. It gets you access to our Discord. It was cooking during the game yesterday. Really fun place to talk about soccer, MLS, NWSL, national teams, whatever else you're talking about. People are trolling us about the Knicks in there as well. That's always fun. I really appreciate another platform for that to be possible about. So that's really been healthy.
We brought this on ourselves.
Yeah, it's been a healthy addition to my life. So you can get that as well as you get access to our depth charts and everything else on the MLS and NWSL side as well. So we've got some input from there. And obviously we've got the list expert in here in Andrew Wiebe. I brought this up on Tuesday and everyone's response was I would love to see this show. So this is what everyone asked for going into, I believe it is the S&P 500, Qatari Airways, Stella Artois, Heineken Rivalry Week coming up this week in Major League Soccer. But we can just blink and we can continue on from there. So now we're going to go into our standings. Weebs, you're going to lead here because you're the list master. But I will say, there's a reason you bring on the legend. Like, when you get ready to rattle off, you can cook. Don't feel limited to the list you've written down.
ISO. This is, we got Brunson on literally any Celtic. We're getting out of
so I'm treating this. We're going starting with 1, and this will be a meandering list. So we'll start with 1, and we'll try to create what we think is the proper list by eliminating the top dog remaining in the pool. So I'm basing this both on sort of historical, which I think is important.
Yeah.
But I also think the present is really sort of that's where the history comes to life still, right? You can't just lean on the past. Otherwise, we'd still be talking about Atlantic Cup, and that's kind of dormant. It's a little bit dead. Like Cali Classico has a lot of that, but is it still in the top tier of this list? I would say probably not. No. So we are starting, and I think there are 3 options for number 1. Your options are Hell is Real, more of a new addition to the list, certainly new in the sense of FC Cincinnati coming to the league, but also new in the term of FC Cincinnati being, not historically bad.
Yeah.
So Hell is Real is there. El Trafico is there for obvious reasons. It's sort of been the king of the castle for a while now. And then Cascadia remains a big-time player in this. When I say Cascadia, no offense to Vancouver, I even talked to people in Vancouver about this, and they were sort of like, yeah, we might be a little bit over this. And I was like, yeah, well, you were kind of the third wheel anyway, so like it's okay. Like
they bailed too soon though. Now they're gonna dominate it. They bailed.
I know. It feels a little bit. Yeah, that's a good point. It feels a little bit like LAFC is more of a natural rivalry for them right now. Not a derby,
right?
But a rivalry. Yeah, which I think is an important distinction.
Which was why I put the question in Discord, because I think that's the thing where, for us on the outside, it's like these are the rivalries, and some of them are a little bit of history with some of this, and others are like, no, this is what the fan base cares about the most, and this is the thing we've latched onto. And I think the balance between what's now and what's past is big. To me, Cascadia is still king in that scenario. Yeah. I think as bad as Portland has been up and down, and as off as Seattle has been at times in the regular season, you've still got a team that won the Champions League for the first time and is going to a second Club World Cup in this span, was in a Western Conference final. So there's still relevance, I think, for the two squads. And I think when you add in history, quality, rivalry, moments, all of that stuff. I mean, they played in the playoffs 3 years ago, was it? 4 years ago? Like post-COVID, there was a playoff series where they played. You obviously have the Sebastian Blanco, Zarek Valentin moment in 2018. As good as some of these others are, I think this is the only one that combines great history with still great quality.
So let me. The top three, I think that you laid out, Wiebe, is unimpeachable. I think that is the top tier right now. That both combines history and current. For me, it is those three. I'm sitting on the fence. Like I'm leaning Cascadia Cup, but like if you made a strong argument for Hell is Real, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. And then also El Tráfico, I'd be like, oh yeah, that also makes sense. So. I'm fence sitting here, but
the argument on Hell is
top three.
The argument on Hell is Real and El Tráfico is like we've actually never really had a bad one.
Yes,
even when the teams are bad.
Yeah, they are short-lived, and they have. I mean, that first Hell is Real, it was like a miracle that it was an entertaining game because Cincinnati was death at that time. Bad. Caleb Porter, Columbus, and yet it was super entertaining at Nipper. I think it was at the time, and so they've always been really good.
All the things.
Yeah, then you add in now. Weebs, it sounds like you were not leaning towards.
No, I actually am leaning away from Cascadia. For me, actually, right now, and a lot of what I base it on is like, what am I most excited for?
Yeah.
What do I want to watch? Where do I feel the most juice? What game do I think will kind of
Toronto,
have...
DC.
Boy, quick way to bring it down. Like I just had images of DC, New York City in my head right there from midweek, and I was just like, I shut down. It's just what I think is where I'm going to walk away from the most gobsmacked from this weekend. And that's not to say that I don't think, Portland and Seattle can deliver that. I just think it's more likely that we'll get it from Cincinnati and Columbus or El Tráfico. The El Tráfico one is interesting because it is not like heavyweights at the top of their game.
Yeah.
It's like one heavyweight that is like sort of like, oh, are they still there? Are they still good enough? And the other heavyweight that's just like a puddle on the mat right now. And like, can they pick themselves up? And in the moment that nobody believes in them, and I still don't believe in them, Tom. I know you're like saying for the sake of content that maybe this is the one, and maybe based on history it is. But like, I feel like this is a potential bludgeoning by LAFC. And that's interesting. And it's also interesting if the Galaxy can stand up and make it a game and get their first win of the season. Like, imagine the scenes if that happens. Like, I have a trouble doing it, but I'll be there to see it on Sunday Night Soccer. I cannot wait. Ooh. And then I just think the soccer is going to be best in Hell is Real. That's the other thing. I just think the soccer, the teams themselves, the coaches as personalities, I think it has, like, if you're looking for 5 things, I think it has all 5 of the things right now. And so I would rank it for the time being, and this is not a disrespect on anybody. These are your top 3. These are the best of the best. The creme de la creme. I go Hell is Real, El Tráfico, and then I would go Cascadia. And these things can change every single rivalry week. It really can.
I don't disagree with anything. I think the Hell is Real stuff is, as you said, like perfectly laid, which is clash of styles, clash of personalities, both in the cities and in the clubs. I mean, even the stars at times. The difference is last year between Lucho and Cucho, just as like styles of play, soccer, and now this year you switch it and it's Evander and Rossi. Again, very different. Like everything about them is so polar opposite. It's the perfect thing you want for a rivalry. I can't get over the history though.
I get it.
Although the playoff series 2 years ago helps a ton of like the comeback in that big moment, and Columbus gets there, and you've got a lot of trophies now in this 4 or 5 year span in that. Okay, so let's say we step outside of these three.
Yeah.
We agree that these are the top three. I've made this as hard as possible for Morgan to cut this, so I feel good about that as well in that whole conversation. That
the real rivalry right there, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Blue Sky's 1 minute video max versus me and Goss talking.
We have a lot of Montreal-Toronto complaints in the chat. I think some of that's fair.
I think it's completely fair.
We've got some Hudson River Derby mentions.
It's not top tier. So that's why I've been waiting. Weeby, what is your next tier? Like, what is the next tier?
Let's just finish out a top 5, and I think that's an interesting way to do it, because then you're going to have snubs that can't get into the top 5 and feel like that's completely unfair and unjustifiable, and then you're going to have two that say, hey, that sounds about right to me. I'm going to right now say, sorry, Texas Derby, sorry, Copa de Tejas, like, you're not in the top 5. Like, we just have not had enough of the sort of vitriol and energy and meetings in the playoffs and big-time games and all the teams being good at the same time to get there, and I just think it's a little confusing right now. Like, what is it? Is it all three teams? Is it just Houston, Dallas? Is it Austin, Dallas? Like, what is it? What is it? I'm not exactly sure. So you're outside my top 5 with that one. I think your New York Derby, you're out. You're outside the top 5 for me right now.
Completely agreed. That does not resonate in a national way in any way.
It just, neither of the teams are good enough, interesting enough, and it doesn't feel the same as when it started, where it was like, hey, this might be number 1. When it started, like, going to those games felt like the event. You know, being underneath the train in the Bronx, and like the buzz was at a different level. And
Shout out to stands.
Let me just clear up that this would have been when I was in college, and I'm a New Jersey guy, so I want to say I did not throw a sandwich board at anybody in whatever year that was.
Do we think NYCFC Stadium changes this? Do we think like the first one at NYCFC Stadium?
Yeah, I think it has.
That'll help.
I think it can really help. I also think that New York City going into their stadium maybe crystallizes a little bit more who they are and what they're about.
Right.
And I do think that is a lot of what, like, especially the historical side that bleeds into the present of Rivalries is. Like, I think that's what makes Cascadia still so strong, is just you have these very clear sort of feelings of identity and place and belonging, and like what it means to be a Timbers fan and what it means to be a Sounders fan. What does it mean to be a New York City fan right now? Like, there's a good starting point there. Like, there really is, but like, it needs to mature a little bit, and I think having your own building will do that. Here's the other question for you. So your Canadian Classique is in here. You got to talk about that one. I think you have to talk about St. Louis, Kansas City. I don't know if it'll get in, but you got to talk about it. Mm-hmm. The other one for me is like, is there a Miami one? Would it be Orlando?
Yeah.
Would it be Atlanta? Is it a rivalry, or is it more of a state derby?
Right.
And then Rocky Mountain Cup, would we stretch in? Would we stretch into the top 5? And I think 2 or 3 years ago I would say no, because RSL had just so thoroughly dominated things. But it seems like it's starting to change a little bit. But it seems like both teams are still sort of in this, like, we're not quite a complete package place for this particular game. So if I'm just going on games I want to watch and sort of making that my first determination and then going from there, we already saw St. Louis, Kansas City. I would say Orlando, Miami. I would sneak in at top in the top 5 there. I would sneak it in, and then I would go Canadian Classique at 4, because it's sort of like desperation is a very powerful drug, and desperation for Montreal is pretty familiar, and desperation for Toronto is pretty familiar, and it goes across, boundaries on a map. It goes across sports. It goes across culture, and then
languages.
you put two throw 2 desperate people in the ring, and you're just like, well, who's gonna walk out like that? I'm here for that. So I'm gonna say 4 Canadian Classique, because I love my neighbors up north, and then I'm gonna sneak in Orlando, Miami, mostly on present star power and what I want to watch the most.
El Clasico del Sol right there.
Oh, I forgot about El Clasico del Sol.
Me and John Rollins are pushing it a ton. Shout out to John in the chat. That is a very Leagues Cup style one.
Wow.
But,
okay.
So that gives it even more juice for Wiebe. It gives it even more juice.
You know what? Let me re-examine my positions. I feel great about that now.
Tom, how do you feel about that?
So, Canadian Classic for me is 4. And I think the strongest argument for that is it doesn't matter if these teams are bad or good. I'm looking forward to that game. And no more than this year is a good example of that. So I think that shows how strong that rivalry can resonate and does resonate. I know that we're almost a decade beyond some of those playoff series that were just legendary.
Yeah, 2016 I think is like one of the greatest playoff series, if not the of all time.
I still keep thinking about that. Like I still go back to that. Like when you're, whatever the pregame package is going to be before this game Saturday, those highlights are going to come up and it brings you right back. And like I'm juiced. And like even silly things like the blue versus red. I think that's a nice, when you watch these teams play, it's so consistent over the years in terms of that. But the cities hate each other. Like you said, Wiebe, this spans not just soccer, other sports, territories, all this good stuff. Like that for me is there. And again, I think the strongest case for that is that it, like we're talking about how it's real. Like I think that was the other one where it's like, doesn't matter if they're good or bad. They always deliver it. It's always something to look forward to. And that's at the top right now because of how good these two teams are and how contrasting they are. Montreal, Toronto, if this was a year where both of these teams were up, they'd be in this rivalry would be absolutely.
But how long does that last for? Because we're now in 6 years where that's not the case. You could argue 7.
But that's the thing. I'm still sitting here looking forward to that, and it's still in this tier.
Okay, I think the hard thing with the Canadian one is
agree with Dave though that history is doing some real lifting for the present.
Oh yeah,
and it's okay if one's good. So like Montreal was good under Nancy for a year. It obviously didn't last as long as it could. Toronto obviously had some big years. That helps a rivalry, I think. Like if you bring that team down a peg when they're up in your town and that becomes your season, great. Toronto's been bad for such a long time. The other hard part is because of Canadian Championship, they play a lot. And almost you reach the point of like, is this less exciting? I still would keep it in there. I would argue, I think Miami-Orlando is the biggest rivalry of those two teams. I think it's fair to say that, like to not bring Atlanta into that, although we have someone in the chat saying Brad Guzan didn't fall into the goal to lose to Orlando in this. I think that's fair. I just wouldn't have it in here. I'd still have Hudson River Derby. Look at the playoffs last year. Just like, again, you talk red-blue, you talk about across this market, and you have so many people who live with the other fans. Like, that's the one, along with El Trafico, where it's not like, when we travel to your city, we don't like you and we boo you. It's like, my friends suck because they're a fan of the other team, and if we don't win this game, I have nothing that I can talk about, and what can I throw in their face? And they both have something. Red Bulls have a stadium, NYCFC has an MLS Cup. They toss them at each other like sandwich boards, as Tom said. It's the whole experience. I still think that one pushes into the top 5 over Miami, Orlando, because you still have history with a little bit of current success and rivalry. But in saying that, I've definitely missed more of the Hudson River Derby games that are on weekends where it's not like, oh my God, this is happening. This is the whole weekend, which I think is why it's out of that top 3 tier.
And I think it could be there. I think it could be St. Louis, Kansas City could be there. Like you're really just picking and choosing what your measuring variable is, and I'm guilty of picking and choosing based on personal enjoyment in this moment, and sort of that's antithesis to some of the rivalry heat because I'm a neutral. You know what I mean? Like the whole point is like I shouldn't experience it the way that a Red Bulls fan would experience it. I should not be experiencing it the same way like a Dallas fan would. So. I do think it's very fair to be like, well, there are different sort of interchangeable rivalries just strictly based on perspective. And that's the beauty of the whole thing is like your perspective rules everything when it comes to these games.
Someone put in the chat the third wheel derby, which is San Jose and Vancouver.
I love that.
That is wild.
I love that.
I did not know that existed. That is brutal.
Don't they have an actual derby? I'm pretty sure they have an actual name for
because I think that it's like the 74 thing because they're both from original.
NASL.
That's a little bit different, but yeah. Do you have a next tier?
Oh, hold on. Rocky Mountain Cup is 5 for me over those. I don't think that there's enough history with Miami and Orlando, and like I said, I just don't think that New York are relevant enough across the country. But like, I don't think that I don't think that like an LAFC fan or Seattle fan or even like a Miami fan is like juiced about, Red Bulls are playing NYCFC this weekend, can't wait. The same way that I think neutrals are about the other ones we've already listed.
I mean, look, and I love the Rocky Mountain Cup. You think neutrals are coming out of the woodwork for this?
Well,
not all of the time. But right now I think both of these teams are relevant enough. Like I wouldn't call them great or anything, but I'd put them. And again, with the history, as the balancing here. I'd put that there.
There's some good moments in the history. I mean, everybody remembers the Pablo Mastroeni. I actually think the best recent moment is Cole Bassett, like truly showing you what rivalry means and being like very shaken up and upset when they lost to Real Salt Lake, and it kind of being an overall like barometer point for the Rapids as an organization. Like those are the moments to me that speak to a wider audience of like, oh, got it.
Yeah, this means more.
But,
do you have it?
Sorry, one more for me to throw into the mix. I don't think that it's like one of those classic lists where it's like, I'm not actually putting them in, but I want to mention.
Okay,
Cali Classico still does it for me. It really does.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair. I have that in my list.
Same.
Okay.
I would rank it above a
Get a better
Atlantic,
slant,
it's above an Atlantic Cup, right? Okay, so let's officially rank here. Can we let's make, like, we kind of debated it, but let's make some hard and fast decisions. Are we saying Canadian Classique at 4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what are we settling on at 5? Will we settle?
All three of us have different opinions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're the type. You're the list guy.
What was your opinion again, Tom?
Rocky Mountain Cup.
Yeah, out it goes. Sorry. I'm going to, you know what? I think that the weight of history here is more important than my desire to watch Lionel Messi against Orlando. So I'm going to agree with David Goss. We'll push New York Derby in at 5. So at 6, then we have some options. We have Rocky Mountain. We have obviously the Copa del Sol. I think we have St. Louis and Kansas City.
Are we doing Derby Q with that or no?
Yeah, we'll do Derby Q, and then Texas Derby and Cali Classico are there other options.
Texas Derby, when you say that, do you mean El Capitan between Houston and Dallas?
This is the issue.
Or Copa de
This
Tejas.
is a big issue for this particular rivalry.
Okay.
Is that the branding is not as universal anymore.
Yeah, it's the John Arnold Cup at this point.
And I like that brand. I think if we could get that sponsored by Continental Tire, I think we're cooking with something.
Yeah.
Like, that could really get some traction. I think it needs to go to Copa de Tejas. I think if you have 3 teams in Texas, to me, you should widen it. But that's a very non-Texas opinion that I'm sure Houston and Dallas fans are like, no. Like, we don't need the Verde and Black punks rolling into our neck of the woods. So, but I think that hurts it. I think it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Tom,
Tom's just lost.
Get out of the group chat and talk to me in person more often, okay? I'm like this all the time, okay?
It was the most Midwest, like, oh, these Verde and Black punks, get out of here, you.
Well, he just doesn't like because the grackle thing. We'd be so mad about the birds.
Yeah, that's actually the number one rivalry on this entire list is Wiebe versus Grackles. There are still stories told
the Balkans
in Kansas City, Missouri, of me running out of my back door, straight out of waking up with a pot and pan, banging it in underwear, and my neighbors being like, "What is wrong with this person? What is wrong with him?"
So where you have now inserted El Clásico del Sol as 6?
Yes. No, I'm saying it's in the running. Orlando, Miami's in the running for 6. St. Louis, Kansas City's in the running. The Texas Derby, however you want to interpret that one, is in the running, and then the Cali Classico to me is also in the running.
Okay.
And Rocky Mountain Cup. Sorry.
Yeah.
What's your heart tell you, Dave? What's your heart tell you? Just
if we don't have Rocky Mountain Cup in the top 5, I put that 6, and I would put. Sorry, no, that's wrong. I put Cali Classico 6 and Rocky Mountain 7.
Okay.
Because I think Cali Classico has history, high points, low points, the Stanford Stadium thing.
Ugh.
You have Western Conference, like you have a lot in there. Plus teams that have won.
Landon Donovan, as a human. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot in there of success against each other, success in the wrong direction, teams being up and the other side pegging them down. I think you do have good regional rivalry of like NorCal, SoCal is a genuine thing that's happening. So I give respect to Cali Classico there. And again, it's one that I'll tune into even in the last few years when one or two of these teams sucks.
Okay, I respect. We'll take that as our 6. And then we have our 7 is Rocky Mountain, correct? So I would go, look, I think history also matters here. No offense to my brethren in the Midwest. I would go Texas Derby afterwards just because I do think it has history and potential. And then I go St. Louis, Kansas City after that. And just because, I've been swayed to the side of history, we'll go Orlando, Miami after and say, hey, Copa del Sol, build on yourself.
The Derby Q, it's big that it got a playoff game so fast and a playoff game that mattered so much.
And to your point about good and bad teams, that dynamic was everything. I think that really launched a lot of it because St. Louis were at this high point and Kansas City were at a desperate point of like, we just scraped in, but we have a chance to sort of knock you down a peg in your very first go. That sets the tone for a long time. So we're probably underrating St. Louis, Kansas City. But it's early, and both teams are right now. And so, it's a little bit it's hard to really get it going above some of the others.
This is partially on the league for putting Houston in the Eastern Conference for a while. Houston, Dallas have not faced off in a playoff game since 2007. Because I was trying to think, I can't think of the big Flashpoint game. That makes that really hard.
And that would have been what? That probably would have been back in the day. Like, that would have been like the Rico kick to Pescadito days.
Well, actually, I guess they were Houston already because they were Houston, right?
Yeah.
Right, they had just gotten there. That's probably the one Flashpoint is the Carlos
that was like
Ruiz.
Cup-winning Houston era there. Yeah.
And Dallas was okay at the time.
Yeah.
Shout out to Steve Morrow, wherever you are, whatever you're doing.
I think that, look, is that a comprehensive list? No. But is it a Wiebe list? Absolutely.
We have a bunch of questions in the chat on some different stuff. Weebs, I'm going to let you go though. So I appreciate you.
We may not have a meeting, so I'm just going to lurk for a second.
Ooh, corporate Wiebe.
All right, Tom, here's a couple questions.
I'm going to circle back on this particular topic.
Here's one of the questions for you, Tom, from the chat. Can a team have more than one in this list?
Yeah.
Can Red Bulls have both NYCFC and DC United?
There's a lot of love to go around. We don't have to stick to norms, historical norms.
We have two
Very
fan bases.
Grateful Dead take from Tom here.
Ooh, we got some balloons on me too.
Yeah.
We have two fan bases that are everyone thinks they're our rival or hates us, and it's Seattle and Red Bulls. I think for the Red Bulls side, I get it. Being the Knicks fan, we come out of every playoff series, I'm like, that was a blood feud. And you look at other teams, they're like, no, we just played each other, that was it. And it's you don't despise everything about every piece of that team in City. And I think it's true. You're I didn't know there was other ways to operate. And I think Seattle is saying a lot of people feel that it's either a grudge match or an already anointed rivalry. I think part of that's being good. We've got some Philly LAFC stuff thrown in there. I don't know that there's a specific one to me right now, as Wiebe lurks and Tom talks, that is this is not an obvious one, but it's a low key one that's brewing of they've played so many big games outside of some of this LAFC stuff.
Yeah, and it's almost now you could almost say a little Columbus LAFC just for how many times that they've met in finals or big games like that, where that's not a rivalry, right? Because that is situational rather than anything else. If LAFC or Columbus aren't getting back to finals, that just goes away. And then the next time that it comes back, we're talking about it again.
Yeah.
Hey, remember 2023, remember 24.
I don't know if I agree with you on that being situational. I think it just has a half-life, right? There's a half-life to those rivalries. Just like when Kansas City and RSL were literally fighting each other in preseason and playing in finals, it was heated. And then when you start to change personnel and eras end, then the matchup doesn't have the same heat. So it's just it degrades over time naturally. So I would still say there's a rivalry. It just isn't going to last forever.
How is that different than situational?
Yeah, situational felt just a bad word choice. Just be a better communicator, okay?
I feel for Minnesota in all of this. It's hard to get involved.
But they're helping themselves by being petty.
Yeah, fair.
Being nice is not a way to get rivalries.
That's a great point. Their social media team is doing everything they can, and I love it. I'm so here for it.
And happy birthday to Dylan Walpers, by the way, in all of this. It was a big day for him yesterday, so that's a little addition. I don't think Tom knows what that means, which means Tom did not watch the video that I sent him.
And Doyle tweeted about it. He was super juiced about it.
Oh, Doyle tweeted. So you mean Blue Sky?
So. That's right. He skied it. Yeah, he did sky.
Someone sent us a graphic that Austin FC has never played at Columbus, which was a thing I was unaware of. If you had asked, I would have guessed that because I can't remember it, and I feel like I'd remember it.
Yeah.
But it's been 5 years now, and I know COVID's a piece of that, but does not feel by accident. Does not feel accidental. We will get Wiebe's quotes on that coming up in about a moment. The scheduling around that, because I asked in the chat, is this one that sticks out to people? Yeah. Weeby's mic disconnected at the exact perfect moment. Is this one that feels like it? And people are it's tough because it hasn't really happened the way you'd expect it. Columbus is a lot going on right now.
Get all that done?
Is Cincinnati Philly one that we think is going to come into play? Or is that curtain walking
situational?
Away?
There's still so much ties between the two organizations that, I and That sparked when you said something about a preseason fight. Since he plays Philly in preseason every year, and it feels like we get just incredible stories out of it. Like, there was the year where Aaron Bupenza rounded Andre Blake, stopped on the goal line and backheeled it, and then Jose Martinez just clocked him. I forget if he tackled him off the ball. Immediately got a red card in a preseason game. Do you know what you have to do to get a red card in a preseason game? Like, and then all of the they had a couple playoff games, and again, just the way that their styles match up, it's like it's a rock fight, it's a car crash, insert whatever metaphor you want to use or simile. I remember school. That it lends itself to like that physical. It's like going back to like when the Knicks or whatever, when you're like, oh, you don't hate everybody you play all the time.
Yeah,
that's Philly too. And since he has so much Philly DNA in their organization, that I think that's absolutely one for now.
Yeah, Philly NYCFC was pushing for a little bit. Obviously, the Eastern Conference Finals, like there was a bunch of pent up energy in that. Philly's just never found one. Like DC won't claim them.
Yeah, they tried to.
Red
the
Bulls.
problem for DC. The problem for DC is now the Red Bulls don't really claim them.
Yeah.
And so they're just stuck in rivalry purgatory where they like.
That's fans versus
like,
ownership.
It's just like the good old days, like talk. You know, like
Yeah.
well, back in the day when the Atlantic Cup was everything, and it's like, well, you kind of, back in the day.
Yeah, did you fax over the scores at the time when the cup was relevant?
Yeah.
The Revs, and someone said in
At the
chat,
box
Revs are
score
just
in the newspaper the next day, or like what?
The Revs have never had one. In my head, the Revs should be Houston because they met in MLS Cups.
Wasn't there a situationship? Can we call it that? Like, I'll get on board with you for situationship.
Oh yes, this
Tom,
is a good addition.
Wasn't
to
there a
this
situationship with the Fire at one point?
and the Revs?
Yeah, just because from the playoffs, like they were
Yeah.
just playing each other in big games so often in those years, like the 12-man years, and and those were also the years when it was the start of everything for the Fire and Bob and all those just really epic teams. So I would throw that one out.
We got an RSL Houston shout for kind of around those years, the Beckerman years of like some Open Cup games, some playoff games, some stuff like that. I think RSL was one where in that 6-year span, I think a lot of fan bases disliked them because they played a lot of big games. Mm-hmm. And so I think you had a lot of
them.
Yeah. You had a lot of animosity pent up of semifinals and finals and playing against the ball sometimes. So frustrating for people. Like, I think Kalen Carr caused a lot of angst in people's lives.
Well, the other thing I would say about all of
Still
this, in that specific situation too, where you're just saying we see them a lot, is you need faces to hate.
Yeah.
So you need like consistency, and you need guys that are easily hateable. You know, like I'm looking at like the Brooklyn combination of a very hateable person right here. You know, like you smash your two heads together, like that's hateable. But you need that. You need Beckerman barking at you. You need Nate Grabavoy on the field being like, you're like, this guy's like doesn't look like he'd be an SOB, but like he is really playing like it. You know, Sabo is running through us. Olave and Borchers, like this is miserable, and they seem to love whooping us like that. You need that hateable face, that hateable persona, and good teams usually have a good bit of that. So
we now sit on the verge also of what will be next. I think part of that is I think Nashville's sitting in an interesting place. Like, can they get enough playoff games and not move conferences again to be able to play someone, whether it's Charlotte or Atlanta or Chicago?
Honestly, the Red Bulls, they've had a lot of decent, like.
Yesterday was their first win ever against the Red Bulls in their franchise's history.
I heard that and I was like, that can't be right. And like, obviously it is, but I was just like, wow, I feel like that they've done well against them.
No, that is not the case at all. They did really well yesterday. They looked really good last night.
Can we like
invent?
I mean, like I know people are going to groan at this, but just try to. Can we try to envision a future where there's a real rivalry for teams and try to figure out what that rival would be and why?
Are we
like
adding expansion teams in this, or are we doing current teams?
I mean, we could do San Diego. Who's their most likely rival?
Yeah, that was one I was going to ask you. I don't know.
LFC?
It's going to come down. That's going to come down to the games they play. Like, if the Galaxy are horrendous this year, and San Diego and LAFC play in the playoffs, and then next year San Diego takes a step back, Ricky's back, they're good, and then in 2 years LAFC, San Diego play in the playoffs again. That's it, right? Like, I don't think there's any difference between those two clubs from a cultural point of view to San Diego. I think the Galaxy are probably bigger in the region, and it's more of a name, and so that's the only thing that would stand up.
It's fair.
On a different thread, I like that in Rivalry Week, it's Caleb Porter versus Bruce Arena. That's an individual thing, not a team by team thing, but we can try to make it a San Jose. And there's, I don't know, 700 players that went between the two teams this offseason, so there might be something.
No, I've personally circled that one on the calendar. It's even better. It's in New England, obviously. How about a Charlotte? Like, where's Charlotte sitting in this rivalry spiderweb?
Could be one. Could that be one? I don't know.
It could be. I will say, I think Orlando has a bit of Knicks energy to them. I think people don't like playing them and losing them. I feel like Charlotte's coming for Orlando off the playoffs last year already. But in saying that, I think Atlanta's coming for Orlando. I think Miami's coming for them. So maybe Orlando starts to be one of these many mistresses rivalry situations. That's what it felt like with Charlotte. I think I think your best bet would have been Atlanta, right? The El Miron thing happened. 2 NFL stadium setups, trying to sort of beat each other as best in that Southeast region type thing. Atlanta being a mess this year, probably.
And just in two cities that, I mean, I don't know if there's a real rivalry between the cities. Like, no offense to Charlotte, I know they're kind of taking a beating this week with the PGA Championship, but
I don't even know what that means.
Charlotte will know. I think Charlotte will know. Many will know. But like, I think if you're looking at the region, there's not like is Charlotte better than Atlanta thing going on. It's mostly, I think, assumed that Atlanta would be the better city, and that's not a dig on Charlotte. I really like Charlotte. Have enjoyed every moment I've spent there. I don't know. Maybe I'm just inventing something there. How about Chicago? It feels like a Chicago Fire. Like a team in Chicago needs a rival.
Irrelevant for a dozen years.
They've had some good Red Bull stuff. Obviously, the Tyler Adams playoff game, I think back then through to like the Dennis Hamlets years. Chicago being bad is bad. We got something in the chat if we're doing other teams. Indianapolis would be a clear one if it ends up coming in. My assumption would be Detroit would be a clear one if it ends up coming in as well. Those are all new teams that would have to come about. I don't. My guess at this moment, if you ask me, it's going to be Berhalter related. Like if in 5 years you're like, oh, this is actually a rivalry. It's
Chicago,
going to be
Vancouver MLS Cup. Here we go.
Yeah. It's going to be Nashville, it's going to be BJ and him, or it's going to be Columbus and him.
That one didn't exactly pop off in the way that I get.
No. We need when Jesse Marsh leads Canada
7-2
to the quarterfinal of the World Cup.
I guess it did. It just wasn't as
Then takes an MLS job.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the Berhalter Marsh. Just it's like the trees of like with Bob Bradley, Jesse, Berhalter. Like there's a lot of not infighting, but you know what I mean. Like there's a lot of different branches off of all of those trees that are close, but so that'd be good. Particularly after how Marsh and Berhalter with the national team were all that, not to rehash all that.
A rivalry arborist over here, just these trees, we got the branches.
I'm a homeowner now, so I'm looking at.
Let us finish on this.
We do an inspection on this rivalry. Like, what's the mechanical on this, huh?
Secure the perimeter.
Let's finish on this. So we have sort of our 10. I appreciate everyone for all the feedback, and obviously let us know how we're dumb and what we've done wrong, and I will read through all of it, and maybe we'll pull some of it into the show next time. For the weekend, Canadian Classique is the early game on Saturday. Hudson River Derbies, then at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Then you get into the full slate of games at night, including that Bruce Bowl or whatever you want to call it. You have, I think in the end of it, you've got Cascadia at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on Sunday, you've got the Florida game, and then you've got El Tráfico.
It's a great doubleheader. Sunday night soccer, baby.
I was literally about to say, Tom, let's start with you so we don't just end up in the full promo.
No. Weeby's giving us 55 minutes. He deserves the promo.
Yeah, that's fair. What do you... Okay. Give me some
excitement.
Go ahead,
Goss over him.
Give me some juice for this.
He's the host now. He's the host. I have to follow directions. The juice is, I think, for Miami is just like, is it falling apart or is it not? Like, where is this season going for them? The first 2 minutes of that game in San Jose was, I feel like the Miami experience this year, which is, oh my God, they're great. Oh my God, they're terrible. Like, what?
Yeah.
So that's been the seesaw that we've been on, and it feels like Orlando's seesaw lately has been either up or dead even. They're not dropping. Like, they're not winning as many games as you might expect, but I thought it was a really good performance against a little bit better Charlotte maybe midweek to pile up a win there. So I just think, to go back to our point about rivalries, these are the moments, like Orlando trying to climb, 10 games unbeaten, Miami trying to figure out, are they a great team or a team in disarray? This is where it can kind of pop off, and obviously Lionel he's a passionate guy. Like he has himself an ability to make this rivalry pop off, like in the same way that all the attention gets paid when he and Andres Kubas just have a little beef.
Yeah.
Or when he's talking to a referee, like everything he does just has a different level of sort of hype pushed around it. So, look, a lot of people on that field are going to be speaking Spanish, and it could get crazy. And I
like the matchup for Muriel here, right? You get center backs on this Miami team whose minds float. Muriel's in a really good moment. Like you saw that against Charlotte, popping up on back shoulders, being dangerous, even if it's a gift of a goal in the first one. I don't think anyone strikes the ball better right now in the league than Ojeda.
Oh, my God.
It feels like there'll be goals. It feels like it'll be exciting. It is meaningful. I think on top of the Miami thing of like who they are and whatnot is what are they playing for?
Philosophical.
What
are we all doing here?
Right. They're out on CONCACAF. Like are you gunning for Supporters Shield? Did you win it last year? Is the goal MLS Cup? Then are you sort of biding your time through Club World Cup? And if Orlando can put a pasting down on you in the middle of that.
What do you think about that? What do you think they should care about the most? To me, I would care the most about Club World Cup right now. I would say that like for Miami, putting in the best possible performance in Club World Cup should be like short term their number one goal.
You got to think of La Familia, family. That's why we're all here, trying to live a good life and do good. And I don't know. Think about it. That's what you meant?
I don't know what you're trying to get to, Tom.
You're just talking about what is it all for? Why are we all? What are they?
Yeah.
What are they looking to get?
This is like Fast and Furious 12. Like what do we do? What are we doing here? Like throw it in first, bro, and like let's burn some rubber. All right?
Bro.
I don't disagree with you. I would just say I don't think that matters right now in terms of like you have to start playing some relevant soccer.
No,
like,
to do it, you have to. You're right.
Yeah, I would say I don't know that the team will say Shield is the most important thing, but the way they've played in knockout competitions, that is the most likely thing you're going to win. Like the way this team is structured, non-specific, don't have time to fully game plan for us. The game's a little bit more open and more free. Regular season games is where they are at their best. And so to over-index on knockouts and cups when you've won one, that was Leagues Cup, the day he got there and whatever else.
Isn't that the whole point, though? Is that winning something different is the point? Winning something that has a different historical weight is the point. I will say it's good news that Ashinde got a couple goals last night because all that sort of early season hype of like Segovia and Ashinde, it doesn't matter that they lost Gomez or it doesn't matter they lost Campana or, all that, like, which was a Rojas that was sort of just like, I don't know, like form started to show you that really did matter. That was a good sign. That was like a canary in the coal mine of like, okay, it's not as bad as it seemed for the last 10 games in terms of getting help. But I mean, look, you guys are right. Every game matters because every game is basically like
to the MLS season pass.
Yeah. Well, I didn't hear you before I said yes. So take that off the record.
To a global audience, every
but
game
it's just
matters.
like,
sorry.
Mascherano's under huge pressure. Like,
Absolutely.
So every game truly does matter for them.
We had some questions about Denke, so let's go into Hell is Real. That one's 7:15 is what it says on the schedule, so it starts at a time.
Hold on. I'm on El Trafico, so we already gave the rundown of that one. But somebody's calling me.
Why aren't you in this meeting?
No, the meeting was reportedly canceled. We already said it. But like, look, I just want to see how the Galaxy respond. Like, how do you pull yourself off the mat? Like, this is the game that would pull you off. And if they don't get up off the mat with some real energy and, like, passion, that's going to be really, really difficult watching.
Okay.
Really difficult. But I think
they will.
Hell
is Real now?
Yes, you can.
Top of the Eastern Conference. I don't disagree. I just thought we did El Trafico
you're
before
allowed.
we did Orlando, Miami.
Listen, they got boxes to check.
Yeah. No, I think everyone can agree that the appearance was worth it at this point.
Yeah, look, you got to pay your price, man. This is the VIG, okay?
Weebe's going to go on LinkedIn after this.
Tom, what do you have for Hell is Real for me?
Oh, man. So I'm still of the belief that Cincinnati are the best team in the league. And every chance that they get to prove that is or display that they're the big dogs, that they're the team that other teams should be chasing, and particularly against Columbus. And it's just stylistically where both of these teams are at, I think is so fun because there's so many different reasons beyond, like, before you get to like the current teams for this rivalry that you're excited to watch. Like everything off the field, the fans, that they're both high in the standings. But then to go on the pitch and they just the styles, both of them are so committed to the way that they play, and both of them think we're the best team on the field. You adapt to us, you counter to us. You have to we're gonna throw our fastball and hit it. Both teams are doing that, and I just love when those two styles kind of come together. And there's more star power now at Cincy, but there's still a lot of stars with Columbus, like Diego Rossi. Is this the Daniel Gazdag game where it's like, oh hell yeah, like this is why we traded for one of the best players in the league, one of the most productive players in the league over the last 4 or 5 years. So I think on the individual front of the storylines that I'm kind of following, where it's like, yeah, Kevin Denke's been phenomenal this season. Be pretty cool to do that in his first derby.
The goal against Toronto was gross. Like, that's insane.
That was unbelievable. The way he celebrated was like what made it more scary for me, because it was like that dude, like that was so weak foot. And like we talk about everything that he's good at, his movement off the ball, his finishing, his pace, he can win balls in the air. He dribbled through 3-4 dudes, smacked one with his weak foot into the upper 90, and turned around like it was a training 7-a-side goal. And I was like, it's like if you challenge somebody to a fight and they're just like calmly like, yeah, like not emotional at all, it's like, oh my god, I'm gonna get my ass kicked here. Like that's what that Denke like gave to me.
His ability to dribble into it, his ability to shoot from anywhere quickly, like doesn't take a lot for him to get to the power, and a Columbus team that's going to open up the game. I think that's like the excitement in all of that, and I think that's
Thank you for saying that in 4 sentences, what I said in 2.5 minutes.
I think that's part of why
it's much better.
It's the best game of the weekend. It's also probably going to decide a decent chunk at the top of the East. Clearly, these two teams are not going away. So it's a 6-pointer.
I mean, it's going to decide who's the Supporter Shield leader and potentially who's leading the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Can I also just a pure Wiebe side here? Did you see the little like things that they put inside the numbers on the jerseys?
Oh,
sick,
yeah.
Super sick. Like love the skeleton. Like the Cincinnati one, but love the skeleton, but just love that happened. Yeah, a quick question on Cincinnati, though. I hear you on best team. +4 goal differential is not exactly screaming it.
Totally fair. That's I'm more like projecting like they're getting the results. Plus, like they're my shield pick. I think
it's sustainable.
At their best, they're better than anybody else.
No, I agree. I think it's sustainable, and like we're sort of hovering not at the floor, but obviously above the floor, but nowhere near the ceiling with this team right now.
Exactly.
How do you get more out of Orishano? Because it's not right now clicking the way Lucho and Orishano clearly clicked.
Yeah.
Do you go back to Orishano, like when they signed Orishano, wing back? That was the plan. But then you have to tell Lucas Engel that like you need to stay at home more on the other side if you put Orishano at right wing back, and then that means DeAndre Yedlin out of the team. I think it's a good problem to have, but I would like to see.
It's funny that you assume Engel's 100% still starting in that scenario, and it's not Yedlin and Orishano.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, so maybe Orishano on the left. Yeah, that's either way.
I could see him on the left because Evander likes to hover over there.
One of the wing backs
on his right.
Whoever is at the opposite side, like you have to stay because Orishano is going to play wing back like Christian Espinoza for San Jose. You're really a winger, and it's just a lopsided 4-2.
Man, the theft, by the way, of Espinoza not getting that goal last night, that would have been the 4-3 of like, it would have been the best goal of his career against Messi. And he actually had the celebration on lock again, where he was like, I'm not going to overdo it. It's going to be cool guy. And then they called it back. It was brutal. Yeah, I think part of the Orishano-Lucho connection was when he started at wing back, they played in a clear space together. And then when he moved up the field, he occupied different space, where it feels like Evander and him cross over more because Evander actually wants the ball in more areas of the field, which is a positive on Portland when there was less direction. It's a little bit harder here where you have other players. And I think it makes him less predictable for his teammates, and a guy like Orishano where it's like, okay, well, where am I living and where am I popping up? And that's the question marks for me, which I said to you last time, Tom, of like, this team has not peaked. In saying that, if you have them as your Supporter Shield pick, that's great. For a team to have not peaked and be in first place, like that's the dream, and they're getting healthier as well. And they also are a team that's clearly like, if there's a small gap or opening, they're going to try and take it in the summer window or wherever ends up happening.
And the flip side is the Crew have a huge gap. Like they have a massive gap that they could exploit still.
The upside, yeah, that's a good point.
Like there's a big piece that they could bring into their team that would change who they are.
And on both of these fronts, Columbus, I am very firmly expecting to add a designated player this summer. And Cincinnati, you never say never on these things because they have some really smart cap people at the club. But my understanding is pretty safely they're staying the 2-4-2 model because they need the GAM. And hey, they have a lot of flexibility with U22 initiative.
Yeah.
And that's a way for them to add a high upside, high talent player. But even if that might not really impact this season because you'll be 24 games in and U22, you know, all of that. But like, this front office, they hit on a lot, and this coaching staff, they hit on a lot of signings.
This is the club that like low key got Santi Arias to sign on like a vet minimum because he was looking for a place to play, and they gave him the right plan. Also, shout out to Dado Valenzuela for being the off season or their summer window big pickup when he just starts destroying.
It's tight that Dado is like I actually want to walk this back, but it reminds me of Vander being
even
like,
say it yet.
I know. It just made me feel bad. I just like feel like I'm cursing Dado, but like I immediately thought when Evander was like, that's my guy, I'm bringing him up, I'm putting him under my wing, I was like, Zlatan and Efra. But then I just want to pull that one back real quick.
Efra's had a great season in Liga MX.
Yeah, that's true. He's back. He's fully back and fully alive. Okay, any games? I guess New England San Jose would be the big one outside of the rivalry specific games that everyone would sort of have earmarked. Charlotte Chicago's a fun one. Charlotte hosting. Zaha scored a couple goals, or scored a goal last night because, dude, he's Wilfred Zaha. Like, come on, bro. Obviously. Tom, are you in or out still?
I'm in. I'm
you're
riding this
fully
thing
in.
till we go down.
Yeah. There are
it feels like there's a lot of times it's about to go down.
There are question marks.
It's never his fault when he talks after the game.
Yeah, there's question marks on all three lines. Like, back line, midfield, and the attack with this group, and that's where it feels really hard to put them into like the elite convo. And Chicago had a great win last week.
Yeah, Charlotte. This road test was always going to be the RU elite test, and it's ongoing for a while now. What'd you think of the 3-4-3 they went into last night, and sort of put Zaha more in a half space with Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy?
I like it.
Coming around him
my biggest critique of Zaha this season is there's just so many times where he's just hugging the touchline and static. And like wait, like, hey, if you guys pass the ball quicker and switch it quicker, I'll have more time to get the ball and run at somebody. He's just never off. He was never off the back shoulder, it felt like, and he was never really tucking into space. It just felt like it was really easy to mark him out of a game. And I think with a 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1, give him a little bit more freedom. And like again, his goal, his first touch was at the top of the 18 in the channel. Like one touch brought him to zone 14 and he scored. And I think that they need to get him into more spaces like that. It makes me feel for Liel Abada because it's like, hey man, we bought you for $6 million DP, like big. Sorry, you have to play wingback because we need to accommodate.
I mean, no offense. I don't feel bad for Liel Abada even for a half second. I mean, Bernadeschi played right wingback like
relax. That's the fact that he was on best 11 as a fullback. Like, dude, he was a winger. It's like same thing. If Chris Espinoza should be best 11.
You can play it that way, Liel. You can play it that way.
I don't think that you can if the other side is Marshall-Ruddy because he's an attack-minded player. Because then you're really three at the back.
They are exposed in the back no matter what right now. Like, guys are losing 1v1 battles. Reem, Malanda. And it was one of the concerns with them. Malanda has these moments where he sort of falls apart in the game, whether it's in a game or for stretches. Feels like he's in one right now. And I don't think Reem's helping. I actually think, normally I would say I love a partnership where like two different skill sets. It actually feels like right now they're kind of falling, their deficiencies are falling into each other. And that's making it pretty difficult for the team structurally overall, and they don't have a central midfield that protects them. Like, you don't watch this team and you're like, yeah, no. Nwobodo will clean this up. Chara will clean this up. That's like not the case with them. I think that's another part of this team that I worry about on top of all of that. Okay, do we feel good?
We feel good.
You haven't been on a while. You have anything else you got to fire off before we get out of here?
I feel like somebody who hasn't exercised in a couple months and just like hit a good workout and they're like, endorphins are high, great, but like tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and I'm just like, oh God, why does that hurt?
You're gonna want to do a nice salt bath after this just to make sure you get all the lactic acid out.
Gotcha.
Weebs, read any good books recently?
Not recently. No, I outlined all of those on the Scuffed podcast. So, if you'd like to go listen to that.
Oh, wow. Show. Promotion for other shows.
Just thanking them for the invite.
Okay.
But no, I have not recently read any good books, but I need to return my library book that I lost momentum on and get a new one. So I'll report back in the group chat.
Wow, Wiebe supporting local libraries. He's just a hero, man.
You know, it's free actually to get a library card, so I don't even know how much support there is on this, other than it's late. So I probably owe them $5.
A leader in this space.
I would like, if we're talking libraries, if anyone that listens to this works for the Miami-Dade Public Library System, I would like for you to just explain the late fee plan. I don't understand it. I've read it 15 times. You don't owe a late fee unless someone else wants the book. Then you owe the whole fee of the book unless you bring it back. I don't really get. I don't really get a little bit of that. Yeah, so just let me know what I owe it, and let me read the book as long as I want. I've also run out of steam on it, so I'm trying to find my way back home on that.
That's punitive. I got to tell you, that's punitive.
I like it,
but I might be wrong. Again, I've read it like 5 times. I don't understand it. You need a legal degree for this thing.
So. All right, while we're airing just random grievances, I'll go. From my commuting to Connecticut, all the driving, I don't understand why people cannot just adhere to the golden rule of the New Jersey Parkway: keep right except to pass. And it just so happens a lot of those license plates are New York and Pennsylvania, who do not adhere to this rule.
The fastest driving car, what lane do you drive in?
Left. When you pass...
And then the next fastest driving car, what lane do you drive in?
The parkway that I'm taking is usually 2 lanes.
Okay, that's like a whole nother thing. I said this to my partner, and she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, you only pass on the left because you don't want to be in someone's blind spot.
Right.
And so that's why you leave the left open unless you're driving the fastest.
So all tortoises should be in the right.
Correct.
And happily so.
She acted like I was making this up.
Well,
and then I'm like, whoa.
I was going to respond to you and say, the second fastest inevitably has to drive on the right because the person in the middle is so in their own world that they don't understand that they're the slowpoke.
Oh, you don't middle lane ever?
No, I would. I do, but then there's always the person in the middle that's getting passed on both sides and doesn't move over. That's the biggest thing. It's like, see, look, the signs are there. People are streaming past you. You are the rock in the river. Like,
this person just said, especially because the exits are on the right. Thank you. I spent like an hour in a car being like, everyone knows this. And then I realized, because Miami drivers are the worst. This is the worst place I've ever driven in my life on the planet. I have driven on multiple continents. I lived in Boston and delivered pizzas. Like, I've been in these streets for a while, and this is insane. And then I'm like, well, maybe all these people learned it the same way as her, which is no rules. So maybe that's why it's pure chaos. But I don't think
the education is failing our youth.
And on that note, thank you so much to Andrew Wiebe for joining us. This was an absolute pleasure. I am glad that everyone gave us some input. I'm looking forward to this weekend of rivalry matches. We will have our weekend recap coming out of it to sort of get you all the notes of what you saw. We've got some great shows lined up for next week. I have no idea what's going on next week either, so I'll make that up when we get there, and we'll figure out guests or whatever else that we might end up doing. So thank you, of course, to you, Tom. Weeps, thanks for being here.
Roll the music.
This is Weebe's normal drive home, so he's feeling like he's about to be home. Thank you to our partners in soccer throughout the chat as well.